Good evening and welcome to Being One Show. My name is Ken Campbell and I am so happy to come to you right here on PrayerCaveTV, and I have come with good news. I've come with goodies for you. So wherever you are and you're watching us, I know we have so many people watching us from all over, even including they that are with us via our YouTube channel and even our Facebook channel. Please leave a comment right there. We would really love to hear from you, even as we continue with this amazing episode today. I can guarantee you one thing: you are going to like it and you're going to learn so much. And because of the demand, you asked for her to come back, we are bringing you the person who is not new to this show and even this TV, and she's back on this wonderful show. And without taking so much time, today we are going to talk about grief in marriage. Wow. And it's because so many things have been happening and people have been going through so much, especially in marriages. But today we are here to help you and give you, a way out through these grieving moments, and even sometimes when we experience losses in our marriage. So help me without taking so much time. We welcome our guest tonight. She's going to be telling us so much about grief. So karibuni sana, and even karibu sana, Madam Mary.
Right.
Karibu.
Thank you.
Due to public demand. Walisema wanataka Mary tena.
Wow.
Because the last one we talked about was about rules.
Yes.
I can tell you this for sure.
Yeah.
I really loved that episode and many of our viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, tulienda kuweka rules.
Uh-huh.
They are working, by the way.
Yeah.
They are working, and thank you so much for that knowledge. I would even call it a revelation.
Yeah.
For our marriages. So thank you so much. Looking good as always.
Thank you.
Yes. And so
Thank you.
please say hi to our viewers even as we continue.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me first of all thank you so much, and also the entire Prayer Cave family for the invitation. I don't take it for granted. This evening I'm so glad, and most of it all is to know that what we are doing here is being put in practice.
Oh yes.
And that it's coming out even in the marriage, because our aim is to help someone out there. And if they're able to learn this and apply it in real life, in the marriage, for me, it's a good thing.
True.
So thank you so much once again for inviting me for another episode on marriage.
Yes.
Especially talking about grief.
Yes.
In this case, talking about grief even from a personal perspective.
That's true.
So grief in marriage, because it's so much.
That's
then
true.
we can be able to see how we can help each other.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Maybe you need to mention your name.
All right.
To them again.
Okay.
So that we remind, and especially because we are growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So a bit of introduction. My name is Mary Ngige. I'm a born-again Christian. Married. I was married, but right now I'm currently widowed. Lost my husband. Now it's been 4 years.
Okay.
This is my 5th year, and all through I have seen the grace of God has been sufficient. I'm a young mother of 2 boys. One is turning 10 years. The other one is 7 years. I'm a teacher, trainer by profession. I teach counseling at Word of Faith Community College, among other colleges that I do.
All right.
And I am currently doing counseling at Huduma Center. So Huduma, there's counseling you can call 1919 to seek for services on counseling, and we'll be there to serve you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's me, and that's what I do.
Wow.
And it's a pleasure to come again.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And right there, I think what we'll do, our producer will be giving you, an invoice to the government.
Yeah.
You have given an announcement for the government right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, on a side note, now let's get into the topic of the day. We are talking about grief, and maybe we need to explain to our viewers what is grief. Yes.
Okay, to start with, I would say that grief is when you have lost something or someone who you are attached to. And as we're talking about marriage and grief, we are looking at the emotional distress that these people who are in the marriage go through in that period of loss. And we'll be discussing a lot of issues that pertains loss within the marriage. that people need to be helped to negotiate.
All right.
Yeah, so grief in marriage has got a lot. There are quite a number of the things we'll talk about. So that it will depend on what someone is grieving. But basically, it's about losing something that you're attached to or you value, and you have to go through the grief process.
True.
Yeah.
True. So when we're talking about grief, especially in marriage, it's basically loss of a spouse.
Yeah, in marriages, we look at the loss of a loved one, and in this case, it could be the spouse, one partner leaving the other. It could also pertain loss of a child within the marriage. It also has to do with the loss of a parent within the marriage, any other relatives that affects the family. Because when loss comes, the family is not able to be complete. So you find people are grieving within the marriage, and in this case, more with the couple. That's where we are going to concentrate more and see what normally happens during that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's good we define grief and we get to understand exactly what it means, and especially in marriage. So when we are talking about grief, what exactly are the causes of grief?
That is very key, because when you're talking about grief in marriage, we want to see what normally makes these people to grieve within the marriage. There are quite a number of issues. One is that what I've just mentioned about the loss of a loved one, probably who you're so attached to. And it could also be issues of loss of job. Within the marriage, one of you can lose a job. I usually say grieving, it's not only losing a loved one, even losing job, something that you're attached to, something that you love. So loss of job can be another one. And the issues of infertility, where one is trying to get a child, but they are incapacitated. They are not in a position to get the child. So they will grieve within the marriage. It can also be of these issues about health, because loss of health can make you grieve. So these people are married, and maybe probably one gets sick, or rather get a terminally ill condition. This person who is living with this sick person is going through grief. It can also be issues of finances, and we know that is now the major issues even within the marriage. And it's bringing even breaks up within the relationship, and people are not aware that it is about grief. So probably issues of lack of finances, we are not able to negotiate that, and because we are grieving even without so it become a big problem altogether. And it could also be issues of divorce and separation. You were once together, but circumstance come, whatever issues it is, and you find yourself departing. You've seen people separated. So you know someone is living somewhere, but you're not together. You're grieving. And it could also now the loss of a loved one, which already now you know he went and he'll never come back. And then it can also be issue of divorce, where you even do it together, but you'll be grieving because that person is not with you, and you were once attached. So there are quite a number of issues within the marriage that can bring grief, but we would want to go more at looking at if loss happened of a loved one within the couple or within the marriage. What can we do, or how can one be able to negotiate through? So probably that's what we can measure more on.
We can go that route.
As much as there is others. And I have seen even people grieve for loss of properties and assets. Like there's one guy I know, he's been grieving. He lost a house that just collapsed. And even right now, he's stuck at depression. We'll be talking about the process of grief. He's not able to negotiate that loss. So you find it's bringing a lot of issues within the marriage, and they're not able to walk the journey together to process that grief. So we need to create awareness on what normally happens, so that we see what is normal with what is not normal in the grief.
That's true. That's true. Wow, it's something that is really heavy on someone's heart when they are going through such situation in their lives. And let me ask this question, Madam Mary. When someone is grieving, over a person they've lost, and also there is also another person grieving at the issues of probably finances. Are these people really? I don't know if there is a measure of grief. Who is weightier? Which one is weightier than the other?
Okay, so there are quite a few factors that determines how one grieves.
Yeah.
One, I can talk about the relationship. If it is for the person, the relationship I had with this person,
Yes.
you see, and maybe giving myself as an example.
All right.
When I lost my husband, it took time for me to be able to process. Especially, I got stuck a lot at anger and depression, and also a bit of denial, because this is someone who I was so attached to. So the relationship matters of what you're losing or the person you're losing. And I have seen someone go bury a partner. Na anasema aekwe mchanga kabisa. Mzike ndio asiata siamke. So meaning the relationship they had with that person was not good.
That's true.
And allow me to also talk about this on a personal level.
Yeah.
I lost my dad after my husband, but how I grieved him was not the same way I grieved with my husband, for my husband.
True.
Because I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So the relationship matters on the level of how much you can grieve for that person.
True.
And even if it is loss of something, because you're saying it's loss of someone or a property or an asset. So how much you value it determines how much you're going to also grieve.
True.
Another factor that determines grief is for like what nature. Like if it is the loss of a loved one, there's that one that you see someone getting sick, and probably high chance the person might not make it.
Yeah.
You've been taking care of this person, but you can look and see, and actually you start now grieving prior even death happens. Then there's this other person who at least like it was a sudden death. You see, like for me, we just left and he never came back. So the nature of death also determines the prolonged process of grieving. So relationship and the nature of death and also the person's personality. We have different personality.
Yes.
And I say those people who are outgoing, they are likely to process their grief very fast. Someone who talk. Like me, I used to talk it all over. With my students, their friends, I used to express myself. But there is the introverts who just keep quiet.
True.
And in this case, even for the men, they don't literally like express themselves so much. So that again makes the period or the process of grief be prolonged. So those are the things that determines, and we need to be aware. And then we grieve differently. I would also want to urge the couples, when you're going through grief, it's good to embrace the aspect of uniqueness. We are unique. And so even when it comes to grief, we will grieve differently. So we don't expect this person to grieve us, the other.
True.
So it is good to respect one's way of grieving as a couple and the spouses within that relationship, so that you allow each to express themselves.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah. And Madam Mary, when you're giving out your story also, trying to figure it out, how, you are in that moment of grief. What exactly do you need for you to start getting into the part of, healing? Yes.
Number one, I can talk about patience.
Okay.
That is one thing we lose a mark when we are grieving. You're not patient to yourself. You want things to work very fast. And you see, one thing I say about grief is one thing that you can't quicken. You have to allow yourself go through a process. So it means you really need a lot of patience. So that is one thing that really helped me. And then understanding grief. And that's why we are here to give knowledge and psychoeducate them about grief. Because the moment like for me, a good thing I can say is that I used to teach loss and grief when I was even before in that relationship. So when this man died, I already had known the process. I was aware, I was teaching people so much about it until it happens so real. And then I had also to apply the knowledge. So people need to be aware about the issues of loss so that they can be able to negotiate. Be patient and understand the concept of grieving and the uniqueness that it comes with depending on the person.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Where is the place of acceptance, in this whole process? Accepting that it has happened.
But allow me to explain the process so that we come at acceptance.
Okay, go ahead.
And we see how we would get at that. So when someone has lost a person, and this person that you're so much attached to, and even loss of any other thing. It
Yeah.
could be loss of property, loss of a pet. You know, there are those people who love pets
true.
and they literally grieve.
Yes.
Like there's one friend who lost a dog. He really grieved for like a whole month.
Oh.
It will depend on the attachment that person had with that.
Okay. Yeah.
So as you have lost anything, not even just a person, there's a process you go through,
Yes.
and I want to discuss that.
Yeah.
So number one, when you have lost someone or anything that you're attached to, you will go through denial.
Okay.
Denial is when you're distorting the reality. It has not happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't sink. And denial is a defense mechanism, but it helps us to cope with, you know, it's about anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're so much anxious and you're getting to kind of deny it. It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Like for me, I remember when it happened, I used to tell my friends and relatives never to close the doors and the windows. Because you see, by the time he left, he said that I'm coming back. I'll come back. Nyinyi aleni, nitakuja.
Yeah.
So when he died, I used not to close doors and windows because I was like, he's going to come back. So why are you locking him out?
Oh my.
So I would make sure the doors and the windows are open. That is denial, where you're distorting the reality.
Yeah.
I used to put his shoes in my hands in his shoes. And nazishika hivi, you know, getting hold of his shoes when my hands are there.
Yeah.
And every time my mom used to come and tell me, put those shoes down, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Where you can't accept that it has happened. And sometimes people get so much into denial and for a very prolonged time. After that, you get to anger.
Anger.
After denial, you get at anger. And in anger...
I mean, that's a moment when you've not dealt with the denial part of it.
Yes.
You go to the next step.
You go to the next step, you get at anger, and anger is in three ways. You become angry at yourself, you become angry at the other person, others, and you can even become angry at God, and even the deceased, the person you have lost.
True.
And giving an example, I think I'll use a lot of, because of the experience in it.
Yeah.
When they lost him, I was angry at myself. Why was I not praying for this man?
Oh, God.
Why did I have to allow him to walk out, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's something I needed to do, maybe probably to prevent the death happen. That is angry at myself. Then angry at God. God, you'd have allowed this not to happen, but you allowed it.
Where were you?
I got married to this man. We did a very big wedding. Why did you allow it? Angry at God. And we ask even questions. But I tell people, when people are asking questions in their grief, don't answer those questions. Yeah, because you might do it inappropriately and it can affect the person more. Then I was also angry at the deceased, the person who died. Why did you allow yourself to go? Like when I went to the morgue, I asked him, mbona uko hapa? Si uliniambia unakam? Na watoto, you know, you're angry at this person. Why did you allow yourself? And that person is so lifeless. And then you're angry at people. You feel like people would have also done something about it. So that is anger. And it comes automatically. When you have lost, kuna anger tu inakuja. And you can't control it. And it manifests in three ways. Towards yourself, to others, God, and even the person who have died. So after anger, you go to bargaining. Bargaining is the what if statement. What if I didn't allow him go? What if these doctors would have done something? He would not have died. You know what? Yes, we have seen people blame doctors.
So much.
Like they're the one who made this person die. What if this person would have done this? What if God, you know, what if? Those questions that has got no answers. Then from there we get at depression. It's a bad one. Because now when someone gets stuck at depression, it means like your life is standstill, you're stagnated, you can't move, you can't have hope. Like me, I was like, you have left me with the kids, they are very small. What will I do with them? I was even feeling like, I wish God took us as a couple or as a family, you know? You become so helpless. And for me, I really had to work on this because at least with the awareness, I could see myself getting to depression slowly by slowly. And for me, it was much more because of the children. I was like, now what will happen to them? Because the man was so friendly to the children. And I would also talk about when couples are grieving within the marriage,
Yes.
let us always remember the children.
The children, yeah.
Because they are still human beings. I say they are small versions of human beings.
True.
They have feelings and they need to be helped also to process their grief.
That's true.
So I was getting into depression because of the kids until one day I had to tell God, you created this man. You gave me these children. So please help me how to to handle them.
True.
And that is the time I was able to put down the issue of the children and overcome now the depression. So many people get stuck at depression. You lose taste in life. You don't want to move on. You feel like there's no hope in life. And sometimes even people go desperate. You've seen people not taking care of themselves and they go astray.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Then from where you're asking, we get at acceptance. It's a journey before you get there. So at acceptance, you're there like for me, I was like, now he's gone. This man is never going to come back. Furthermore, I need to move on. I need to take care of these children, you know, and I need to be strong for them. But remember, we talked about self-care. I remember that.
Yes.
I had to do a lot of self-care to be strong for them.
The kids.
So that is now the bit of you have come to accept. You start now coming back to yourself, taking care of yourself, praying, connecting with people, not to withdraw and isolating yourself. So you kind of, by the way, even if I stay 5 years, it's never going to come back. So I was like, Mary, you need to wake up. Look at the kids, they are waiting on you. And I started to realize I need to wake up. So grief takes you a process. So I would like the couple within their marriage to understand the process. And that is the mistake now people do. You don't understand, because this process of grief, you have to go through it. You have to go through it. So sometimes we don't understand when we have lost that we have to go through that process. So what I usually say is check where you're stuck at in that process. Are you stuck at anger? Are you stuck still at denial? You have not still accepted it. Are you stuck at depression? And so that from there, you're able to identify and bring yourself out and work it out. Like for me, I got stuck at anger. I was having terrible anger until even I had to do anger management through counseling. Because initially I wasn't angry, but when loss came, I got stuck at anger. And I couldn't help myself. But at least for now, I've been able to come out with a lot of awareness and also praying God to help me. I also wanted to say a verse from the book of Psalms 147 verse 3 that says that he heals the heartbroken and binds their wound. That's true. Our God knows that we grieve. And he knows that we get scratched, but he's still the one who come and amend that scratch. So for me, I have like this birthmark. I love it so much. So I got scratched, but when you have a scratch, there's a time that will come, it will not be painful. Because I'll never forget. Because one thing I say about grief, you will never forget. That's true. You will grieve for the rest of your life. Because like I have these children, they look like their father. So I'll see them for the rest of my life. I can never run away from grief. So it's upon the couples within the marriage. Allow yourself to go through the process. You get at acceptance. And sometimes it goes like that. You can accept, then you find yourself in denial again. So allow yourself go through that process. Yes, it's painful and create a lot of anxiety, but grieving is a process for healing. So we need to know and understand the process of grieving. That's true.
Wow. Wow. I do not want to finish this part one without asking the question of God, involving God in all this. You quoted a very nice scripture. I love it, by the way, about it's God who mends the brokenhearted. So even when we are going through this grief, how are we supposed to know to continue seeking God even when we are still angry at him?
There's one thing I usually say is that God knows the end from the beginning.
That's true.
So here I got married to this man for only 5 years. So God knew it. So one thing I have learned as a Christian is to allow God in all season.
Yeah.
It was, yes, a tough moment, but you keep on reminding God, God, it's you that I look up to.
That's true.
And actually, I used to say when it happened, when my husband passed on, God, I know one day you make me understand why this happened.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you nowadays, I can understand.
True.
Because God has really used me in the teaching, especially about loss. And I have helped people resolve loss and grief issues
Yeah, true.
in families and in individual levels, even helping the children in the process of grief. So for now, I can understand why it happened.
Wow.
But one thing, I used to do it before, teaching on loss, until it happened. So one thing I can say, we need to embrace God. He knows that there's something like grief.
That's true.
He knows when you have lost something, whether it's a property, whether it's a person you love, he knows there is grief.
True.
And he helps us to deal with that. He causes a scratch, and he's still the one who come back and heal. Let me tell you, Ken, by that time, I realized not even my mother who can help me that time. And it is God who helped me to come back. And the fact that I knew God is one thing that helped me to get out of it, and also having the awareness in cancer. So it's one thing that we need to remember, to allow God knows our pain. He knows there is grief and there is pain that comes with it.
That's true.
And we have so many people in the Bible who grieved.
Yeah.
Even Jesus grieved when he was being crucified.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pain.
True.
Yeah. And so we should also allow God to take part in the process of grieving, because he's the one who comes. The Bible says also in the book of Psalms 34:18, the Lord is near to the heartbroken and saves the crushed in spirit. When you're grieving, your spirit is crushed. You don't feel good about it. It's painful. Actually, there's one lady who said, it stings. It's painful. And there are those who even say they feel pain literally. You know, like the way you'll be pinched. You feel in the heart pain. Not just feeling, but like pain. So it is not easy, but God is the one who comes and amid that wood. He's the one who says that. And I have seen him amid my wood. At a point I felt I couldn't. He came and he took me up. He drew closer to me. He amid that. Hiyo kidonda anajua kuifunika vizuri. And mind you, he waits when people are gone, when you're grieving. Is the time he comes and work on it. And I could feel it. I could feel I'm moving and I'm progressing in the process of healing. So that is one thing I can say for sure. God is number one in the issue of loss. When you're grieving, allow God to heal and amend the wood.
Wow. Wow. Allow God. We are going to take a very, very quick break, Madam Mary. And thank you so much, even for, you being also the case study here, right here. We are learning a lot. Our viewer, don't go anywhere. We are going to learn so much also from our counselor, Madam Mary. And even the signs, the signs, how do we come to know, or how do you know that you are in this level or the other level? Please don't go far away. We'll be back. So welcome back. This is PrayerCave TV, and you're watching your favorite marriage show in town. This is Being One Show. My name is Ken Campbell once again, and I want to keep urging you, my viewer, please talk to us. Talk to us. You can't, see or even hear this kind of information anywhere else. This one is really, really encouraging people, especially those that are grieving. So please talk to us, ask us a question right there, or even say hi. You're going to say hi back. And so karibu sana in our part 2 of the subject or the topic, grieving in marriage. Karibu sana, Madam Mary.
Thank you.
Let's now get into finding out, or even you telling us what are the signs, especially for a person to know if they are grieving? Or even us who are not grieving, how do we come to know that this person is grieving?
First, I can start by saying that we need to remember that we grieve differently.
Yes.
And that's why I usually say it's good to have the self-awareness. Like, you need to know yourself beyond your name. Who am I? Who is Mary?
Wow.
Because when you understand yourself and you know yourself, when it comes to such issues of grief, you're able to know how you do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, for me, I was an expresser, someone who talks. So I used to talk a lot in the process.
True.
So one of the signs that you can tell that a marriage is grieving, there is the breakdown of communication. And we all know that in relationship or in marriage, communication is very key.
Very key.
So you find that there is a breakdown of communication. We are not able to connect. We are not able to express ourselves towards each other.
Yes.
Unapata, if it is a family or in a marriage, kila mtu ako zake. You know, you're not coming together to discuss how you're feeling. And even if it is for the children, if they are there, we also are not able to communicate.
True.
And talk so that we can pick each other's feeling. How are you feeling in this? Where are you at in this?
Yeah.
So communication comes as an issue within the marriage for the grief.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens is the emotional disconnect. When people are grieving, or when one is grieving, of course we expect that they are feeling bad. It's not a good feeling. There is anger, you're sad, a lot of helplessness and hopelessness. You're feeling a lot of guilt. So you're not able to have to express yourself in a way that someone can even try to help you. True. So you're not able to know how should you express yourself. And I have seen people say, I don't know how I'm feeling. Is that way of saying, sijui nasikia aje. So again, we need to understand a feeling. If you're feeling sad, I usually say just allow yourself. If you're feeling guilt, like me, I used to feel a lot of hopelessness and helplessness. I was having a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, and self-blame. And one of the things maybe I would also have mentioned, people even lose their personal identity. Yeah. So what we need to know is that there's that breakdown of emotional connectedness. You're not able to express yourself and talk it like I feel. And one thing I say, acknowledge a feeling when you're grieving.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you can allow it. The problem is that we don't want to express our feelings and our emotions. So we keep it in, and then it becomes an issue, and it can even bring some issues of health. So allow your emotions out. Talk them out. Yeah, and even if maybe you're not able to talk amongst yourself as a couple, you can look for what I call most important person. Everybody has this person I call most important. Someone you can go share and pour out. Go talk to that person to air out. Because in grief, I say bring it out. Talk it out. Because you keep it there. It's like putting water in bottle. Itafika mahali you explode or you get stuck at depression. Yeah, so that is one thing I observe in a grieving marriage. And then another thing I see is there is a change of role and responsibility, of course. Okay. Like take, for example, this couple, maybe one of us goes. So the one who is left, they have a challenge of changing the roles.
That's true.
Like for me now, I had to take everything on board. From school fees, from the bills. I have to change the roles that I had and adjust automatically. And I'm telling you, it's not been easy, actually, even for me. Because we used to share, you see, last time we talked about the roles. Then the rules. So he's gone and I'm here alone. And I have to know how to play these roles and become someone who is responsible. So that is one thing that I observed during grief, a lot of adjustment into that. Maybe within the couple, maybe a man is left with the children. You're not used to taking care of the children. And that's why sometimes you see people are not able to bear it. And they get stuck in the process of grief, like in depression. They get sick. The other thing I check is a lot of conflict. If you're married and you're going through loss, a lot of conflict because of a lot of kind of arguments. You're arguing, you're not able to agree, a lot of disagreements. And that is one thing that I see arise. Then there is the issue of decreased intimacy. You know, there's this one thing about being intimate. So you find yourself, you're not intimate with your partner, and you don't want anything to do with even sex. There's always that. And we usually tell people, you can even break, allow the person so that they can be able to go through the process of grieving.
True.
So loss of intimacy is one thing that gets to the marriage that is grieving.
Yes.
And then the other one is the behavioral and emotional changes.
Yeah.
You change behavioral ways, you change emotionally and physical wise.
True.
And for the physical, this is where now we are talking about issues of health, loss of appetite. So those are some of the things that I see as the signs of grieving within the marriage that probably is expressed with those who are grieving.
True.
But one thing I say is that allow yourself and be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Communicate. As you're saying, a relationship communication is very key.
Very key.
Allow the other person know how you're feeling.
Yes.
And express yourself. And the other thing I can say about that, there's what you love when you're grieving. There's one who would feel like they want to sleep. Another would say that like they want to have a walk. Another one would want to go swim.
Or eat.
You see, everybody has their
lot.
best, or eat a lot.
Yeah.
Like in my case, eating a lot was one thing.
Yeah.
So I used to really take myself, eat a lot.
Yeah.
That is how I used to grieve. So that's why I'm saying it's good to know your own way of grieving. And when you understand, then it becomes easier.
Yeah.
But for the married, if you're grieving when you're still within the marriage, allow each other. Be patient and take care of the other person so that you can be able to grieve together. And please don't forget about the children. That is the mistake we do.
True. True.
They are also grieving.
Yes.
So allow them in and walk together as a family. If children are there, so that you can be able to help each and every person within the marriage to process grief.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. This is really, we are laying things plain because we want people to identify themselves with the level that they are in, or with the position they are in at the moment, and they start getting healed.
Yes.
So what are the effects that comes with grief?
So one of the effects that you see, I had explained the process of grief, that when you lose, you have to go through that process.
Yes.
So one of the effects, and especially with the marriage, is that someone can get stuck at a point in the process of grieving.
Yeah.
For example, you get stuck at denial, where you see someone takes a longer time. I usually say the normal period for grieving someone goes at 2 years. So if you see yourself exceeding 2 years, then to me it means you have gotten stuck in the process of grieving.
Yeah.
So what I say is that it's good to allow yourself go through the process, because if you don't, one of the effects is that you'll get stuck. And so getting stuck would mean that you need help. Yeah.
Sure.
So that is one of the effects. The other effect is also like more the same of what I talked about, the poor communication. You find yourself you're not able to communicate and even relate and connect with each other.
That's true.
One of the things I've also seen as an effect is depression. People are suffering depression. So much of people who go through loss, they get stuck at depression.
Yeah.
And I usually say that depression doesn't knock at the door, that you will hear it coming. It's just creeping slowly by slowly. By the time you realize you're already depressed. And it starts this way. You start to feel like you're withdrawing.
Okay.
You don't want to associate with people. You're closing out. And you feel like the things you used to love, you're not loving them any longer. Maybe what you used to love to do, you don't do it. So depression doesn't knock that you can turn your heat. Inakujanga tu pole pole. So if you see yourself withdraw and you're not connecting and you're not allowing yourself to connect with people, then that is one thing I see people getting stuck at, and it can take quite a time. And I usually say depression is a mental illness. So if it goes for an extent, it may even call for treatment. So you can do counseling, but again, you can even take medications because it comes with also extreme anxiety. So medicine and medications have to be administered so that you can be able to overcome depression. So one thing I can say, let us not allow ourselves get at that in case of any nature of loss. So there is a loss of a loved one or loss of a property or item.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
The other thing I see is about lack of intimacy.
Yeah.
We had talked about that. You don't become intimate any longer and you feel so low. And it is because probably of depression, because depression comes with a lot of issues to do with withdrawing. You withdraw with your person, you don't want to talk to them, you don't want to connect, you don't want to know how the other person is doing. You have a disconnect. And that again affects the marriage. And it is good to know and pick those things that
Yes.
happens when you're grieving, so that you can be able to wake up very fast.
True.
And work on it. Like myself, I had to wake myself up. Mary, wake up. Because I could feel, you see, for me, I know depression.
Yeah.
So I could feel it is coming.
coming,
And I
yeah.
would pinch myself. Mary, you need to wake up. Yeah. One time I bought a matatu from town. I stay at Utawala. I got myself to Roiro. So I realized I'm not okay. Is when I realized I'm getting a little depressed. So I pinched myself and I told myself, Mary, you need to wake up. So are we able to identify those signs that are coming when you're grieving, that you need to bring yourself back very quickly?
True.
So you need to be very sensitive with yourself, acknowledge what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and watch your behavior in the process of grieving, so that you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can lose it and it becomes hard to come back.
True.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, you need to be awakened.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is you mentioned about boarding a matatu all the way from Mutara all the way to Ruiru without you.
We don't know. I get a matatu from town. I stay at Utawala.
Okay.
Nikapita all the way to Roiro.
Oh my goodness.
So when I got at Roiro, I'm like, where am I?
Yeah.
Mary, where are you? And it is when now I had to pinch myself. Mary, you need to wake up. I realize I'm not myself. Because how would you pass all the way? You're realizing at Roiro, you have missed it. So I realized I'm becoming a little bit depressed. And I used to avoid getting home, because the moment I would see those kids, I used to feel so bad. So I used to make sure that I get at home when it's too late, they have eaten, they have slept. So even this tendency of passing, it was so unconscious, yes. But I would tell it is because there was the issue of avoidance.
True.
So I decided to now wake myself up. And at that moment is when I really embarked and I called on God.
Oh.
And I told God, I remember that day, I stood and I told God, you're the one who created these children.
Yeah.
You're the one who gave me this man and you have taken him. So you, God, take care of the kids. So nikaeka hiyo mzigo ya watoto chini, because I was getting depressed because of the children.
Yeah.
So I could detect and I could tell I'm becoming depressed. So I used to wake myself up.
Yeah.
Mary, you need to wake, and I could talk to myself. Mary, you need to wake up.
Oh.
The direction you're taking. So I would come back to myself.
That's
Yeah. So pray about it, talk about it, and then allow myself to go through the process.
true.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is
not.
doable.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Madam Mary, we've had many cases before we answer the question of how to overcome. Briefly, people who have, after depression and after, it overcomes them, they commit suicide. Because they have not been able to overcome anger, they have not been able to overcome denial, they have not been able to go through that process, and they find, they commit suicide. And so we get into this question, then how do we help these people not to get to those kind of levels? How do we overcome grief?
And if it comes to that extent, it shows that this person, there's something they didn't allow. Because I usually say, whatever you feel and what you're thinking, allow yourself and get connected to it. Because a person who comes to a point of committing suicide, it was once a feeling, probably like you became angry. And the way to solve your anger, your thinking is committing suicide. You see, your thinking is the solution, but it's not the solution. So meaning this person was not able to express himself, was not able to bring out the pain. Like one way I use for bringing out the pain when it comes to grief is that you can write a letter. Like you can write a letter. As you're writing the letter, you see you're feeling pain, and you can even cry when you're writing a letter. Like me, I used to even do message to my husband. I used to send him emails, and I would cry a lot because I want to bring this pain out. So I usually say you can do a letter to the person, haitamfikia, but it is helping you to bring out the pain. Because at a point you get to become suicidal, you have kept these emotions, you have kept them to a point you can, and the only solution you see is to kill yourself. So what I can say to such a case in a person, allow yourself. And you see the problem is there is pain when you talk about it. So they avoid that pain, and so you allow the feelings to accumulate. So by the time you're trying to think you have lost yourself, and the only thing you're seeing you can do is to commit suicide. So many people have died.
Yeah.
And sorry to say, getting stuck at the process of grieving. Probably you got stuck at anger. You got stuck at depression.
Yes.
And you took your life.
True.
I have seen people die, killing the entire family or the spouse, and they kill themselves.
Yeah.
And ukiangalia vizuri, it was an issue to do with grief. There's one who killed herself, and she hanged herself. And the issue was that she has discovered she has got a chronic illness.
Oh, God.
And you see, I said, even when you're sick, you have lost your health, you will grieve, because that is, health is something you are attached to.
Yeah.
So when you lose your health, you're grieving. So she couldn't process grief. She got stuck at one of the stages, and the solution was to kill herself. So what I can say is, let us allow our pain out. Talk it out. Write letters. Talk to this person as if he's here, so that you can bring out your pain.
There is the issue of empty seat.
Yes.
Yes.
The empty seat technique is whereby, like, as you're asking, for me, I used to do it.
Okay.
I would assume he's seated here, and I would tell him whatever I want to tell him.
Yeah.
I even would tell him, this is how we are doing, this is how your boys are. You know, talking to a person as if he's there. It may seem abnormal, but that is a technique for bringing out the pain. So it is as if the person was here. What would you want to tell him?
Yeah.
So for me, I used to do a lot of empty chair technique, talking to this person as though he's here, do a lot of letters, and even I used to do text messages. You see, I text him, but he will not text back.
True.
But as I was texting, of course, even I'm crying, because it is very painful when I'm expressing it.
Yes.
But with time, it brings the pain out. So the challenge is, even within marriage, we keep it. At a point, you realize you are losing it.
True.
Or you're losing even the relationship. So let us run and be quick to bring the pain out.
True.
Yeah.
True.
That's the best technique.
True. I think we've jumped in already to how to overcome it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's some of the things you in the area of overcoming. Yeah.
Yeah. For the couple, maybe I would also talk on how to cope with grief. There's one thing we had talked on the other episode we had on identifying your partner's best thing they love to do.
Wow.
So we need again to embark to this when we are grieving, in case where now you're able to share out activities with this person together, where you're coming and you're doing it together, because once you're able to share the activity together, you're able to halfway help yourself to deal with the situation. Another way you need to cope with grief is self-care. That one, I don't leave it.
Yes.
Do a lot of self-care. Remember, there is you who needs to live, who need to enjoy life. Even though this person is gone, there is you who need to exercise and feel love within yourself, so that you can be able to cope and bring yourself back again. So self-care and self-love is one way of getting to heal in the process of loss, or rather how to cope. Then the other one is about allowing the process of grief. Don't get stuck. Allow it. Allow yourself to feel the way you want to feel. Because I say, there's one thing I say, that grief, I'll be talking about the quotes, grief is a price we pay for love. So even as you're feeling the pain, this is a price you're paying for love. You can't grieve for someone you didn't love. You can't grieve for something or a property that you are not attached to or you didn't treasure. So allow yourself to go through it. That is one way to cope. And then the other thing is, you need to seek for professional help. And that's why we are here, for counseling. Ikikulemea, lete kwa desk.
True.
And I'm giving us even the call contacts. You can just call someone and reach out. Even me as a professional counselor, I used to be helped to go through the process of grief. I used to seek for counseling together with my children. I would take them to a child therapist as I'm also working on myself, so that we don't get stuck. Because I knew we need not to get stuck. We need to allow yourself go through that process as though it is possible, because it is also painful. And when we allow ourselves to feel so much of pain in ourselves, then we are going to get stuck in it.
That's true.
Yeah, so there's so much of the things we need to do. You can even try to change your routine. There are even those who change the position of everything within, like in the house. I have seen people change the position of the bed, the sitting room, and even literally wanahama. Like for me, I had also to shift, and I went to another area. Now, nasamanga, if it comes to that, and if it is the best thing to do, and you feel you need to do it. One thing I say for grief, do what you feel is that you want to do.
Yes.
As much as is not to harm yourself and harm others. Because that is your best way of dealing with grief. Yeah.
That's true.
So kama unasikia kwenda kasafari, tembea tu.
That's
Kama
true.
unasikia unataka shift.
Yeah.
There's a time I would feel like nataka kwenda Nakuru. Naenda. There's nothing I'm going to do. Because grieving tells you, I want to do this. But we deny ourselves. Do that you feel you want to do in the process of grieving. Whatever that it is, you're grieving. So allow yourself and connect with yourself. Listen to yourself so that you can know what you want. Because what you want is your best way of dealing with the grief, not what another person wants you to do.
True.
Yeah.
True. Wow. Before even we get to the quotes and the biblical references, there is the place of others. You know, like, you know, a person, probably in your case, your friends or your mother or someone close. What is the place? What support are they supposed to bring in a person or even in a marriage that is grieving?
There's one thing I usually say that it's good to have this person I call the most important person. Because the most important person is like they get hold of you when you're so low. And I said this is the person you go and talk to. Probably is your pastor, probably is your mother. Like for me, my most important person was my husband. But when he passed on, my most important person happened to be my mother. Because my mom was the one I could confide with. She was the one who was always there for us, up to date. She usually have to know whether we are okay, whether the children are fine. And she is my support system. So what I can say for the couple, spot this person that I call most important person, so that you can be able to express yourself to the person and also get the support that you need from the person. Because we say we are social beings.
We are.
And we need to reach out.
True.
We need to reach out so that we can get the right help.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Madam Mary, tupatie quotes kwa sababu ya masaa. I know they will request you to come back. But give us some quotes. Yes.
One of the quotes that I give for loss and grief is that grief is a passage. It's not a place to stay in. It is just a passage.
True.
You're not going to stay in that.
There.
Like I said, I got a mark. But right now, as much as the mark is there, it's not painful. So meaning you allow yourself to pass through it. A time is coming. There's a time I wouldn't talk about my story. But right now I can talk about it. Why? Because grief is a passage. I have passed it. It's not a place to stay forever. So allow it for that time so that you can heal. There's a time that is coming that you're going to overcome it. So it is a passage. It's not a place to stay on. The other one I say is that grief is a price that we pay for love. It is a price we have to pay for love. Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins. So even us, when we are grieving, it is a price that you're paying for love. You can't grieve for someone that you don't love. You can't grieve for something that you had not treasured in. So that's why we feel the pain, because it is like a price we are paying for love. We need to note that, so that we also take it positively. The other one I say is that it is not a sign of weakness. Or it is not lack of faith. So don't lose it. You're not weak. Even if you get stuck, you will be able to overcome. Believe in yourself and allow yourself and accept the process so that you can be able to overcome. So that is what I can say about. And one thing I love about this quote is that it never stays there forever. With due time, you'll be able to overcome it. Right now I can talk. I talk it, I teach it, empower. I talk to my clients, but it never pains. And I help people overcome with my own experience because I already passed that. So allow yourself and you'll be able to overcome as well. Wow.
Thank you so much, Madam. I think we had mentioned some verses in the Bible. Do you have like one?
I can end back to that. You see, I'm a person who loves also referring from the biblical
Most
perspective,
important. Yeah.
because it is one way also that helped me to be able to overcome. I used to hear these verses the time I was grieving, so it's good I share with you. I started by talking about Psalms 147 verse 3,
Yes.
where we say that he heals the heartbroken
True.
and he binds their wound.
True.
So there's someone who is coming to amend that wood.
Amen.
Don't be desperate, don't be helpless.
True.
Have hope.
True.
Then the other thing I say is from the book of Psalms 34, 18. The Lord is near to the heartbroken and saves the crushed in spirit.
True.
So he's near, he's closer to you, and he
Yeah.
knows that you're grieving, and he will help you.
Amen.
We can also look at Matthew 5:4, says that blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
True.
So we are blessed to mourn because we are also
Comforted.
going to be comforted.
True.
And then there is 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your anxiety in him because he cares for you.
True.
So in all these verses, I am hearing he's near, he
Yes.
comforts, he cares, and he heals.
Yes.
So why should we be discouraged? He knows that there is grief,
Yeah.
and he knows how to take care of it.
That's true.
So for those who are married, remain and work on it,
Yes.
because there's one who helps you to also work it out, and that is God.
That is-
And with time, he's going to amend that wood.
That's true.
Yeah. So however painful it is, just allow it. For in due season, you'll be able to overcome.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. We always say, take it to Jesus.
Yeah.
He's, cast all your burdens unto Jesus.
Yes.
And he's ready to take all those burdens. Madam Mary, people want to talk to you even after this episode.
Yeah.
Please, where can they find you?
Okay, I love to say that I'm a counselor, and even when I talk about this, it's from a counseling perspective. I'm a counselor. You can find me at Word of Faith Community College. Also working at Huduma as a counselor. You can get me on Facebook at Mary Wanjiro. That is Facebook. YouTube, Mary Wanjiro again. Though it's still young but growing.
Yeah.
And I think those are the best places you can get me on. Maybe I can share about my contact.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If you want to call, you can use 0715 235 388.
True.
0715 235 388. That's my number, and you can always reach to me anytime, any day.
true.
And I'll be more than willing to help and support you,
Yes.
and also work with you in the process of grief, whether it's for the children, whether it's adolescent, whether it's in the marriage,
Yes.
and also to anybody who would need this. You're most welcome.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you once again, Madam Mary. I don't know. I wish our producer and our directors could give us 2 hours
Yeah,
and
sure.
do this
There's
for
a
2
lot.
hours. But because of time limitations right there, we will just get to that point. Our viewer, please, don't do this alone. Madam Mary is here. She has given us her contact and where we can find her. Please go dive into call her. Let her help you go through this grief, because it happens to many people and all of us actually. And so please, there is help and there is somebody who can work with you. If you didn't get the number for her, please also talk to us. We can connect you with her so that you can get that help that you really need. And we will say this: marriage will continue working if we work it out. And thank you so much for joining us. Please continue talking to us on our YouTube channel right there, even our Facebook page, and even the number on your screen. We would really love to hear from you. But from now, please keep tuned in for more of these programmings that are coming to you right there at your home. So God bless you. Until next time, my name is Ken Campbell. God bless you. God bless you. Shalom.